I want to tell you about an experience I had, but first you should know that I'm not the kind of person who believes in wild stories or theories. I don't spend my days reading strange tales online or worrying about odd things. I consider myself more like a wanderer, or maybe a hippie. You see, I live in my van. My van and I have had many adventures together, traveling all around the country. I enjoy the freedom of not paying rent and exploring new places. However, one thing that isn't great about living in a van is sometimes parking in places that seem a bit spooky, without knowing if they are safe or not. Almost a year ago, I was on a journey through the northwestern part of the country. I wanted to see beautiful natural sights and visit popular tourist spots. I ended up near a stunning park in Washington State. The spot I found was quiet and surrounded by interesting plants. Most importantly, it was a legal place to park my van, so I decided to stay there. Little did I know I did not choose the best place to spend the night. The area wasn't exactly scary, but it was very isolated. It was clear that not many people visited this spot. On the first night, I decided to take a hike along the park's trails. It wasn't very late when I started, around 6 p.m., so I thought it would be fine to explore for a bit. I took my time enjoying the beauty of the park, and by the time I returned to my van, it was already dark. It must have been around 9 p.m. When I finally reached my van, I was incredibly angry. All around my van, my precious belongings were scattered everywhere. My bedspread, all my clothes, my books, everything was either torn up dirty or thrown on the ground. The worst part was that my van doors were halfway torn off their hinges. At first, I thought it must have been some kind of animal, but then I realized there wasn't any animal strong enough to pull the doors off a van. After I finished being angry, I started to feel scared. Even though my things were scattered around, nothing was actually missing, except for my mini fridge. And I don't mean just the food inside it. The entire fridge was gone. Whatever had been in my van took the whole fridge and left. It was so strange and unexpected. I was really scared and confused. I started to clean up my belongings, picking them up from all around the van. Every single item had the most terrible smell. It was worse than anything I had ever experienced. First, everything smelled like urine. It was a very strong and unpleasant odor, definitely not from a healthy animal. The second smell was even stronger. It was the scent of a dirty, wet dog. But this smell was worse than any wet dog I had ever encountered before. As I gathered my things, the awful stench filled the air, making it hard to breathe. I tried to clean up as best as I could, but the smells were so strong that it was almost unbearable. The entire experience was very frightening and confusing. I decided it might be best to pack up my things and leave, considering the mess and the awful smells. I had some money saved from my careful spending, so I could find somewhere else to stay. But something inside me was curious about what had caused all this trouble. I wanted to find out what had done this to my van. So I made up my mind to spend just one more night there. I thought I would leave the next day. I felt fortunate that I was safe, even though I was still quite scared. As night fell, it started to rain. It wasn't a heavy storm, but it was still annoying, especially with my van doors broken. I had a small pair of binoculars in my hiking backpack, so I sat in the driver's seat, looking out the window just in case I needed to leave quickly. For a long time, nothing happened. I was almost falling asleep to the sound of the rain when I saw something. At first, I thought it was just a very tall man standing out in the storm. Without thinking, I called out to him. That was when it noticed me and turned in my direction. I quickly realized that it wasn't a person at all. The creature was sitting down, and when it stood up, it was almost 10 feet tall. I couldn't believe my eyes. It had these small, beady eyes that seemed to see right through me. Its head was shaped like a cone and covered in fur from top to bottom. I know it sounds strange, but I think it might have been a Sasquatch. The creature was built like a professional weightlifter with massive biceps, which explained how my van got so torn up. We stared at each other for a moment, and then it started coming closer. I panicked. What else could I do? Stay calm? I turned on the van, but it was stalling, and I felt like I was in a horror movie. The creature wasn't running at me. It was moving cautiously, almost crawling. But I wasn't going to take any chances. I wanted to get out of there. Then, as if by fate, a huge lightning bolt struck nearby. I didn't see it, but the sound was incredibly loud. It scared me, but it scared the creature even more. It ran off into the hills, clearly not liking the loud noise. I tried a few more times to start the van, and finally it roared to life. I drove away as fast as I could. I lived to tell the tale, but nobody believes me. They think it was a pack of coyotes or a wild fox. So I figured if anyone believed me, it would be you. Being a truck driver's wife wasn't my favorite thing in the world, but sometimes I got to tag along on trips with my husband, which made it all better. Seeing the mountains or the Great Lakes was always a highlight. Yet, not every trip turned out to be as fun and beautiful as I hoped. This story is about one of those trips that didn't feel much like a vacation. After a lot of convincing, I finally got my husband to take me on the road again. It had been ages since our last trip, and I was itching to go somewhere new. Sitting in one place for too long wasn't my idea of a good time. So when he told me we were headed north to Minnesota, I was thrilled. I quickly packed my things and tossed my small suitcase onto the bunk. Then we hit the road. I couldn't contain my excitement. I was practically bouncing in my seat. It was late autumn, and as we drove, I couldn't help but notice the trees changing colors. It was like watching a painting come to life, and I was loving every moment of it. Fall has always been my favorite time of year. After reaching Minnesota and successfully delivering the goods, our schedule suddenly opened up for a few days. We were thrilled because it meant we could explore the area using Uber. But things took an unexpected turn the next morning when we woke up to find over 2 feet of snow outside. Despite this, I couldn't contain my excitement. I mean, who wouldn't be thrilled to see so much snow? Since going out was out of the question, we decided to spend the day inside our cozy truck, laughing and watching TV. However, as the snow continued to fall, it became clear that our stay in Minnesota was going to be longer than we had anticipated. Thankfully, my husband's company came to the rescue, sending out an email to all the drivers up north, informing them that hotel rooms were being arranged for everyone. I have to admit, I was overjoyed at the prospect of staying in a warm hotel room, indulging in a hot bath, and enjoying some delicious hot food. So we tidied up the truck and made our way to the hotel eagerly. This part of Minnesota was absolutely stunning. I had never been close to the Great Lakes before, and the sight was truly breathtaking, especially with the snow covering everything like a soft white blanket. When we arrived at the hotel, we hurried inside, eager to settle in and then head out for dinner. I was starving, craving something more than just microwave meals. After waiting patiently for about an hour, our Uber finally pulled up. Luckily, our driver had a big SUV and knew how to navigate through the snowy streets safely. As we embarked on our journey, we struck up a conversation with our driver. We asked if there were any cool places we should visit while in the area, and they mentioned the Superior National Forest. I was instantly captivated and couldn't wait to see it for myself. Our driver kindly offered to adjust our trip so we could drive through some of the scenic roads in the forest. We eagerly agreed, and I quickly made the necessary changes on the app. Despite the fact that it was nearing sundown, I was filled with excitement at the prospect of exploring the forest. Little did I know about the scary secrets hidden within this forest. As our vehicle entered the forest, I couldn't help but marvel at the towering trees surrounding us. We pulled over and our driver began to share some spooky stories about the area while I snapped photos on my phone. As darkness crept in, some of my pictures turned out blurry. Frustrated, I cleaned my camera lens and tried again, only to be met with a horrifying sight. I let out a scream when I noticed red eyes staring back at me from the photo, but when I looked up, there was nothing there. At least not at first. Quickly, I grabbed my wife's attention and pointed towards the direction of the eerie eyes. At first, she seemed annoyed, unable to see what I was seeing. However, as she leaned over me and followed my gaze, she too let out a piercing scream. Towering above us was a creature standing at least 10 feet tall. But that wasn't the end of the frightful encounter. The creature was incredibly thin, with long fangs protruding from its mouth, and its tongue hung out unnaturally long. As it edged closer to us, my heart pounded with fear. Its matted fur and glowing eyes became more apparent as it approached. Panic surged through me, and I screamed at the driver to drive away. They seemed oblivious to the danger until they heard the terror in my putrid smell of decaying flesh filled the air, making my stomach churn. Thankfully, we hadn't eaten yet. Our Uber driver had given up trying to free us from the snow. We all knew our best chance of survival was to remain silent and still, but staying calm was easier said than done, especially when the creature slammed into the passenger side of the SUV. I signaled to the driver to be ready. If it happened again, we could use the rocking motion to break free, and sure enough, the creature struck us again, even harder this time. The driver acted swiftly. As soon as the SUV rocked back down, he floored the gas pedal, and we bolted out of there. When we finally returned to town, we were all still shaken. We told the driver we had lost our appetite and asked him to take us straight back to our hotel room. That night remains etched in my memory. I will never venture into the woods of Minnesota again, that's for sure. In San Antonio, there's this bridge that stands as if it's guarding something special. It stretches over the Medina River, offering a view of tranquility and mystery. It's not a bridge you'd stumble upon casually. It's tucked away, waiting for someone like me to discover its secret. My passion is fishing. I love the thrill of waiting for a bite, whether it's a feisty bass or a lazy catfish. So naturally, I'm always on the lookout for new fishing spots, places where I can sit by the water's edge and lose myself in the rhythm of the river. Finding the perfect spot isn't complicated. All I need is water, a cozy spot to settle in, and some peace and quiet. If a river bend in Texas can offer me those simple pleasures, then it's a spot I'm bound to visit again. One day I decided to explore the Medina River. I heard about a spot northeast of where Palo Alto crosses the Anderson Loop. It sounded promising, so I packed up my gear and brought along my trusty companion Sky, my loyal Rottweiler. Sky loves our fishing trips. He's always eager to splash in the mud, weave through the trees, and feel the cool breeze that dances off the river's surface. Together, we set off to discover what this hidden gem had to offer. My trusty pal Sky was always on the lookout for me. Sometimes I'd fish in spots where I wasn't exactly invited, you know. When all the legal places were fished out, what choice did I have? I bet you've heard stories like this before. Lots of folks bring their furry friends along when they're exploring. There's just something about having them by your side that makes everything feel safer, like you're unstoppable. Sky and I stumbled upon a quiet spot, hidden beneath the cool shade of tall, bald cypress trees that hugged the riverbank. Sky wasted no time finding the perfect spot to dig, while I searched for a sturdy branch to hold my fishing pole. It was a calm mid-afternoon, with the sun gently warming the air and the water flowing crystal clear. Sky and I felt like we'd found our own little slice of paradise, a peaceful haven away from the bustle of the world. But then, after a couple of hours, things started to change. The fish weren't biting much, and I could tell Sky was getting restless. He began to whimper, a sure sign that something wasn't quite right. I tried my best to calm Sky down, petting him gently and speaking soothingly, but it seemed like he just couldn't shake whatever was bothering him. He kept nudging me with his nose as if trying to get my attention. I could tell he had picked up on something, even though there wasn't anything visible around us just yet. His persistence eventually convinced me to call it a day. Maybe he was bored with our fishing spot, or maybe he sensed something I didn't. So reluctantly, I started gathering our things: the water bowl, tackle box, fishing pole, and the snacks we had brought from home. But before I could finish packing, Sky's behavior took a strange turn. He began to growl, low and menacing. Now, I don't want to stereotype dog breeds, but let me tell you, Sky was the friendliest dog you'd ever meet. He hardly ever growled, let alone barked aggressively. So when he started snarling and barking at the trees downstream, I knew something was seriously wrong. I called out to him, trying to get him to calm down and come back to me, but it was like he didn't even hear me. Whatever had caught his attention, it had completely consumed him. With a determined bark, he darted off towards whatever it was that only he could see or smell. Without hesitation, I dashed after Sky, leaving behind our scattered belongings in the rush. The water bowl, tackle box, and fishing pole were quickly swallowed by the thick foliage as I struggled to keep pace with my furry friend. Through the tangled branches, I caught glimpses of Sky's hind legs as he bounded ahead, disappearing into the underbrush along the muddy riverbank. He was like a familiar blur of black and brown, but what he was chasing was anything but familiar. The creature was about the size of a person, but it moved in a strange, low-to-the-ground manner. Its short tan fur fluttered behind it like a loose blanket or a giant coat made of buckskin. If it was a person, it moved with an uncanny speed and an even stranger gait, unlike any human I had ever seen. "Come back, Sky," I called out desperately, my voice echoing off the trees. As I pushed through the foliage, the bridge I had heard about finally came into view. It stood tall and imposing, a blend of stone and metal, yet strangely deserted and fenced off, as if warning all who dared to approach. Sky came to an abrupt halt, his attention fixed on the strange creature crouched beneath the bridge. It seemed to be staring right at us, as if guarding its territory. What I saw left me utterly baffled. Beneath all that fur, there were what appeared to be human-like limbs. The arms and legs bent just like a person's would, adding to the bizarre sight. But the head... Oh, the head was unlike anything I'd ever seen. It was elongated and stretched, with bulbous eyes set far apart. It almost resembled a horse's head, except for the lack of fur. Its face was bare, with peachy tan skin marred by scabs from the sun and pesky flies. Suddenly, the creature bared its teeth in a snarl, revealing a set of human-like molars. Then it emitted a strange sound, a mixture of a snarl and a howl. It was long and unsettling, like a laugh that turned into a sob, or maybe even a horse's neigh. Sky's reaction said it all. His ears flattened against his head, and his tail drooped between his legs as we bolted from the scene, sprinting as fast as our legs could carry us. I stumbled over a root, tumbling headfirst into the mud, but I scrambled back up, fueled by fear. We left everything behind, our gear, our belongings. Those were replaceable. But our lives, that creature seemed ready to pounce, and I couldn't risk it catching up to us. As we trekked back to where we had parked the car, my heart sank even further. The once pristine metal body of my SUV was now marred by deep dents, as if someone had mercilessly hammered away at the doors. And scattered around the vehicle were strange, hoof-like prints imprinted into the earth. I'm at a loss for words. I've never encountered anything like that before. I don't even know where to begin searching for answers. Was it some kind of witch lurking beneath the bridge? Or perhaps it was just a figment of my imagination, a haunting daydream brought on by the solitude of the river. If anyone out there has heard of this creature haunting the Medina River, please, I implore you to reach out. I may never return to that place, but even a sliver of understanding could offer some semblance of peace of mind. In the heart of Boston, amidst the hustle and bustle of the city, stood an old, majestic hotel. Its grandeur whispered stories of a bygone era, tales of guests long gone, and secrets hidden within its walls. It was here that Erin, a curious and imaginative young girl, found herself staying with her family one summer. From the moment they stepped into the hotel lobby, Erin felt a strange energy enveloping her. She couldn't quite put her finger on it, but something about the place felt different, almost magical. Ignoring her parents' warnings not to wander off, Erin found herself exploring the corridors of the hotel, drawn by an unseen force. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and shadows danced across the walls, Erin stumbled upon a forgotten corner of the hotel. It was there that she saw her, a ghostly figure of a young girl, no older than herself, with wispy hair and eyes that seemed to hold 1,000 untold stories. At first, Erin's heart pounded with fear, but as she looked into the ghost child's eyes, she felt a strange sense of familiarity wash over her. The ghost smiled, a melancholic smile that tugged at Erin's heartstrings. "Hello," Erin whispered, her voice barely audible. The ghost child didn't speak, but her eyes sparkled with mischief as she beckoned Erin to follow her. Intrigued, Erin trailed behind the ghost as she led her through the labyrinthine corridors of the hotel, showing her hidden alcoves and secret passages. From that moment on, the ghost child became Erin's constant companion. They played games together, whispered secrets into the night, and shared laughter that echoed through the empty halls of the hotel. Erin named her friend Lily, a fitting name for a ghost with petals of innocence and fragility. As the years passed, Erin grew older, but her bond with Lily remained unchanged. Even as her parents dismissed Lily as nothing more than an imaginary friend, Erin knew in her heart that Lily was real as the beating of her own heart. But on Erin's 12th birthday, as she blew out the candles on her cake, Lily appeared before her one last time. Tears glistened in her eyes as she held out her hand to Erin. "It's time for me to go," Lily whispered, her voice barely audible over the sound of Erin's racing heartbeat. Erin shook her head, refusing to believe that she would have to say goodbye to her dearest friend. But as she reached out to touch Lily's hand, she felt nothing but a faint breeze, a fleeting memory of the ghost child who had touched her life in ways she could never forget. And so, Erin watched as Lily faded into the darkness, leaving behind only memories and a bittersweet longing in her heart. But as she grew older, Erin carried with her the lessons she had learned from her ghostly friend, the importance of cherishing every moment, of finding magic in the most unexpected of places, and of never letting go of those we hold dear, even when they exist only in the whispers of memory. Unexpected things happened to me, and every day was the same, with work and chores blending together. I forgot to take care of myself sometimes, but then something strange happened. It could be an accident that changed everything. Maybe the place where I worked suddenly closed, or maybe I saw something weird. That's what happened to me. I looked where I shouldn't have looked. I stared for too long. I think a lot of people do that sometimes. Strange and sad things can catch your attention. Even I couldn't resist being curious. I used to take long walks, Through the city streets or into the woods, I didn't mind. Walking helped me think and relax. It made me feel better, but on this day something happened that I didn't expect. I was walking in the woods on a wet fall day. The trees were bare and the ground was muddy. My shoes made squishy noises, but I kept walking. I liked being outside with nature. I listened for birds, but there were none. I looked for animal footprints, but I couldn't find any. It seemed like all the animals had gone away. Then I heard a loud noise like helicopter blades chopping through the air, but there was no helicopter landing nearby. I ran to see if I could help. But before I could get close, the noise stopped. The forest became very quiet, like I was the only one there. Then I heard a hissing sound like air escaping from a balloon. Something or someone was still nearby. I smelled something strange, like clean laundry and medicine. It wasn't a bad smell, just strange for the woods. I covered my nose and kept walking. I wanted to know what was making that smell. As I walked, the smell got stronger. It made me feel sick, and I had to stop and catch my breath. Then I saw it. It wasn't a helicopter at all. It was a small creature, like a tiny person. But this creature didn't look human. It had a hunched back and long arms that almost touched the ground. Its face looked more like a frog than a person, with big eyes and a wide mouth. I couldn't move, whether from fear or from feeling dizzy from the smell. I just stared at it. The creature tilted its head like it was curious about me. It almost looked harmless, but I didn't want to find out. Slowly, I started to move toward it. But then it looked angry and the smell got even stronger. I couldn't stop coughing and I fell to the ground. The creature ran away and I was left alone. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. I wanted to see it again. I followed its footprints, but I didn't find it. Instead, I saw a bright light shining in the woods. I tried to take a picture, but all I got was a white screen. Then the light disappeared, and everything was quiet again. Later, people said I had a fever and imagined everything. But I know what I saw was real. It was my one truly strange day. Do you have any ideas about what it could have been?